The village of Karway sat high enough that clouds sometimes drifted through its rooftops like slow, pale smoke. From a distance, it looked carved into the mountain itself. Stone homes stacked like steps, tin roofs stitched together with rope and hope, and narrow paths that wound between terraces where wheat and lentils fought for space with rock. There was only one road in and out, a thin ribbon of asphalt that clung to cliffs, crossing two bridges that locals called the knees, because when you drove over them your legs went weak. Twice a week, a truck came with flour, fuel, batteries, and medicine. Once a month, a government jeep arrived with a clipboard and a smile that never lasted. People here were not poor in the way outsiders imagined. They were rich in the language of survival. How to read the wind before it changed, how to stitch a torn roof in 1 hour before the rain came, how to store onions in ash so they stayed sweet for months. But modern things, electricity that didn't fail, communication that didn't rely on a single tower miles away, those were treated like guests. Welcomed when they behaved, blamed when they didn't. In Karway, respect was a currency. The elders held it like a shield. Tradition was the spine of everything. When to plant, when to harvest, when to marry, when to mourn. Most decisions happened in the communal room near the mosque, where men sat shoulder to shoulder and spoke as if the mountain was listening. And maybe it was. Amir returned to Karway on a Thursday in late summer, when the air still held heat but the evenings sharpened. He came alone, carrying a worn backpack and a small metal trunk that clinked when he walked. People recognized his face before they remembered his name. The electrician's son, someone muttered. Amir didn't correct them. His father had been the village's first electrician, back when Karway got its first generator, a coughing machine that drank diesel and offered light in exchange. His father kept it alive with spare wire and stubbornness, but even he used to say, "This is not power, this is borrowed time." Amir had left years ago for the city, scholarship, technical school, odd jobs, quietly stacking skills the way villagers stacked firewood. He learned how small systems could protect people from big failures. He watched blackouts turn neighborhoods into cages. He listened to experienced engineers talk about redundancy like it was religion. He read disaster reports no one else wanted to read, and saw the same sentence buried in every tragedy. "We didn't think it would happen here." He came back because he couldn't shake the thought that Karway was living on a single thread. One road, one supply line, one weak grid connection that flickered like a dying bulb when the wind rose. He also came back because his mother was getting older, and because the mountain was the only place where his mind felt quiet. The windmill frame went up 3 days after his arrival. It wasn't the tall, graceful kind you see on highways, white and distant like futuristic statues. Amir's was small, ugly, and practical, built from scavenged pipe, welded joints, and a rotor he designed to spin even in low, turbulent mountain wind. He anchored it near the edge of the terraced fields, where the wind came clean off the ridge. When villagers saw it, they stopped and stared as if he had planted a strange animal. "What is that?" a boy asked. "Nothing," Amir said. Then he corrected himself. "It's a small wind turbine." "For what?" the boy pressed. Amir looked toward the homes, the roofs glinting. "For light, for charging, for a radio, for cold storage." The word cold storage spread faster than the rest. People knew what it meant. Less rot, less waste, fewer trips to the market, fewer arguments over spoiled meat and medicine. By sunset, the elders had heard. They called Amir to the communal room the next morning. It was not a request. In Karway, a message from the elders came with the weight of a verdict. He walked in and found them already seated. 5 men with weathered faces and careful eyes. A few younger men lingered at the back, pretending to be uninterested while listening to every breath. Elder Rashid spoke first. His voice was calm, which made it more dangerous. "We hear you are putting up machines in the fields," he said. Amir nodded. "A small turbine. It doesn't touch anyone's land. It's behind my mother's house line." "A machine is not only metal," another elder said. "It brings other things with it." Amir held his posture steady. He didn't argue. He'd learned long ago that logic alone could lose to pride. It brings light, Amir said, and a backup if the line fails. The line does not fail, Rashid said, though everyone knew it did. It fails sometimes, Amir replied, choosing the gentlest word. And the road fails too. I've seen it. I've also seen what happens when people wait for help that can't reach them. A ripple moved through the room. The younger men shifted. The elders didn't. Rashid's eyes narrowed slightly. Are you saying we cannot take care of ourselves? No, Amir said. I'm saying we can take care of ourselves better. That was the wrong sentence. Karway respected hard work. It respected courage. But it did not respect being told it needed improvement by a man who had left. Elder Musa leaned forward, voice rough like gravel. You come back with city thinking. You build strange things. It makes the boys restless. It makes people question what is enough. Amir wanted to say, enough is not a plan. But he swallowed it. Instead, he opened his trunk and took out a compact battery pack, wiring, and a small radio unit. He set them on the floor like offerings. This is not city thinking, he said. This is village thinking. Using what we have. Making sure the children sleep with light when the storm knocks the line. Keeping medicine cold when the truck can't come. Listening for weather warnings when the phone tower goes quiet. The word storm landed heavy. Everyone in Karway knew the mountain's moods. In the last few years, rains came harsher, sliding soil like it was oil. The mountain still fed them, but it also tested them more often. Rashid looked at the items on the floor and then at Amir, as if weighing a man against metal. You will take it down, he said simply. Amir's throat tightened. Why? Because you did not ask, Rashid replied. Because the fields are not for machines. Because when young men start building without permission, they stop listening. Amir held Rashid's gaze. If I take it down, will you let me build it somewhere else? Near my home, not the fields. The elders exchanged glances. The room went quiet the way it did before a decision that would echo. Rashid finally said, No. Amir realized then that this wasn't about the windmill. It was about control. About who was allowed to change the shape of life here. He nodded once, respectful. I hear you. But inside him, something settled into place. A hard, silent determination. That afternoon he walked back along the terraces, the wind cutting steady over the ridge. The turbine frame stood there unfinished, angled like a question mark against the sky. Below it, his mother sat on a low stone wall, shelling beans into a bowl. They don't like it, she said without looking up. Amir paused. They're afraid. His mother's hands didn't stop moving. They're proud. Amir stared at the turbine frame and imagined it turning. Not as a rebellion, as a lifeline. He made a choice that felt small in the moment but would later shape everything. He didn't take it down. He moved it. At dusk, when shadows stretched long and the village noise softened, Amir and two boys who still trusted him quietly dismantled the frame piece by piece. They carried it behind his mother's house, into a narrow strip of land half hidden by a stand of tall trees and a rock outcrop. From the main path, no one could see it unless they stepped close and looked intentionally. He worked through the night by lantern light, hands steady, mind focused. He anchored the base deep, reinforced with stone and packed earth. He rewired everything with care, running lines to a small shed he built from scrap wood and corrugated metal. Inside the shed, he placed the battery pack, a simple inverter, and two shelves lined with jars, salt, dried lentils, rice, powdered milk. A space for a future that might arrive sooner than anyone wanted. When the turbine finally stood again, hidden but ready, he climbed onto the roof and watched the clouds gather in the distance. Not ordinary clouds. Dense, bruised masses that rolled over the mountain ridge like a tide. The air changed. Birds went silent. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. From far away, a low rumble traveled through the valley, deep enough to feel in the bones. Amir looked toward the road, toward the two bridges, the narrow cuts in the cliff, the single artery that fed the village. He whispered, not as a prayer, but as a calculation. If it comes hard, we'll be alone. And then, as if the mountain had been waiting for him to admit it, The first drop of rain hit the tin roof, sharp, heavy, decisive. Not a warning, a beginning. The rain didn't fall the way rain used to. It didn't arrive politely, with space between drops and time to pull clothes off the line. It came like a decision already made. Hard sheets that slammed rooftops, turned footpaths into streams, and rattled windows as if something outside was trying to get in. By morning, the terraces were glossy with runoff. Water cut thin channels through the soil, carrying pebbles, twigs, and bits of straw downhill. Men stood under roof edges, watching the sky with narrowed eyes, measuring the storm the way they measured harvest. "This will pass," someone said. It sounded like hope, not certainty. Amir kept his head down. The turbine behind his mother's house was already turning, quiet, steady, a low mechanical whisper under the roar of rain. The battery indicator glowed green. His little shed smelled of dry grain and warm electronics. He tested the radio. Static. Then a voice, faint, broken by interference, talking about landslide risk, washed-out roads, warning residents in mountain districts to stay indoors. He stepped outside and looked toward the ridge where the road disappeared around the cliff. Visibility was poor. The mountain was a gray wall. He didn't tell anyone what he heard. Not yet. In Carway, information wasn't just information. It was power. And power, the elders believed, had to be controlled. By the third day, the storm still hadn't loosened its grip. The village generator, already old, began to choke. Diesel was limited. Rashid ordered it to run only a few hours at night, enough to charge phones, enough for a dim bulb in each home, enough to keep the village from feeling fully abandoned. But it wasn't enough for the clinic. The clinic was a single room with a metal cabinet, a bed, and a refrigerator that hummed like a tired animal. That refrigerator kept vaccines, antibiotics, and insulin for 2 elderly men who had started needing it more each month. When the generator ran less, the fridge temperature crept upward. The nurse, Saima, came out onto the path one evening with her shawl pulled tight and worry stamped into her face. "This is not safe," she said to no one in particular. "If the medicine warms, we lose it." Elder Musa lifted his chin. "It will not warm. The storm will pass." Saima's eyes flicked to Amir for a moment, quick, uncertain, because she remembered him as the boy who fixed things with calm hands. But she didn't speak his name. Not in front of the elders. Amir said nothing. He went back to his shed and stared at the small freezer unit he'd built from an old insulated box, a salvaged compressor and careful wiring. It wasn't big. It wasn't perfect. But it worked. He could solve this. Today. He also knew what it would cost him. On the 5th day, the first rail crack appeared. A boulder came down in the night, an ugly, sudden sound like the mountains snapping a bone. It crushed the lower footpath that connected the terraces to the road. No one was hurt, but everyone heard it. In the morning, men walked to the edge and looked at the fresh scar of torn earth. If the mountain was shedding stones here, it was shedding them elsewhere too. Amir saw Rashid standing apart, hands behind his back, watching with a face that refused to show fear. "We should check the road," one of the younger men said. Rashid's voice was tight. "No one goes down in this weather." The younger man looked at Amir as if expecting him to say something. Amir stayed silent. Not because he agreed, but because he knew the elders didn't move from words. They moved from necessity. That night, the cell signal died. It didn't fade gradually. It vanished. One minute, a boy was holding a phone up in the corner of his courtyard, hunting for a bar of service. The next minute, the screen went blank, and everyone realized they were talking into a closed door. Panic didn't spread like fire. It spread like cold. Men asked if the tower had fallen. Women asked if the government knew. Children started whispering stories they'd heard in city videos about disasters where no one came. Rashid called another meeting. The communal room filled faster than usual. "We are fine," Rashid said. "We have each other. We have our generator. The storm will end. The truck will come again." Amir listened, counting the lies the way he counted battery charge. The generator was already coughing. Diesel was already low. The storm had already lasted longer than anyone expected. And the truck, if the road was blocked, wasn't coming. Still, the village wanted to believe Rashid. Belief was easier than planning. After the meeting, Saima followed Amir outside. She kept her voice low. "You have something, don't you?" she asked. Amir didn't play innocent. He'd been quiet, not invisible. "I have a small system," he said. "For power." "For power," Amir replied. "And cold storage." Saima exhaled, the kind of breath someone releases when they've been holding fear in their ribs. "The fridge will fail soon. 2 patients need insulin. And I have vaccines that can't warm." Amir looked up at the clouds, the endless gray. "If I help, the elders will come after me." Saima's eyes hardened. "If you don't help, the village will suffer. And the elders will still blame you later." That sentence was the truth no one liked to say. Amir made his decision. He didn't go to Rashid first. He went to the clinic. He carried his battery pack and inverter under a tarp. He ran a cable from the hidden turbine shed to the clinic's back wall, kept low, hidden behind stacked stones. He connected the fridge and watched the compressor kick on. The humming changed, stronger, healthier. Saima stood in the doorway, relief softening her face for the first time in days. For 1 hour it was just that. A simple fix, a quiet rescue. Then someone saw the cable. By evening, a crowd gathered outside the clinic. People weren't angry yet. They were curious in a hungry way, like they'd smelled food. Where did the power come from? Someone demanded. Saima tried to speak, but Rashid arrived before she could shape the words. He stared at the cable like it was a snake. His gaze found Amir. "What have you done?" Amir kept his voice respectful. "I kept the medicine cold. That's all." "You disobeyed," Musa said sharply. "You built in secret." "I moved it because you said no," Amir answered. "But the need didn't disappear because you didn't approve it." The crowd murmured. Someone said, "So he has power." Another said, "He can charge phones." A third said, "He can run lights." Amir watched the shift in the villagers' faces. The same people who avoided him days ago now looking at him like a well in a drought. Rashid raised his hand. Silence fell. "This village does not run on hidden machines," Rashid declared. "If we accept this, we accept chaos. Today it is a windmill. Tomorrow boys will bring all sorts of city things. We will lose our way." Amir's jaw tightened. "You will lose lives first." That line hit the room like a slap. Rashid's eyes narrowed. "Careful." Amir felt every heartbeat in his throat. Then he did something that shocked even him. He pulled out the radio. He turned the knob until the static thinned. A warning voice crackled through. Landslide risk, road closures, mountain districts cut off, emergency services delayed. The crowd leaned in, hungry for certainty. For the first time since the phones died, they were hearing the outside world. Rashid's expression didn't change, but something in his posture did. A stiffening, a realization, because now everyone knew what Amir had known. They might not just be in a storm. They might be trapped. Rashid stepped closer and lowered his voice so only Amir could hear. "You want to lead," he murmured. "You want to make the elders look small." Amir met his gaze. "I want people to live." Rashid straightened, turning back to the crowd. "This is temporary," he announced. "We will use his power only for the clinic. Nothing else." The villagers looked disappointed. They wanted more. They wanted light in their homes, charged phones in their hands, control returned to them. That night, after the crowd dispersed, someone knocked on Amir's door. It was Zain, the same younger man who'd asked to check the road earlier. His face was wet from rain and urgency. "Amir," he whispered. "We went down anyway. 2 of us. We saw it." Amir's stomach tightened. "Saw what?" Zain swallowed. "The first bridge. It's gone. Not cracked. Gone. The river took it. And the road beyond. It's buried under a slide. Rocks taller than a man." Amir felt his skin go cold. "How long?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. Zain's voice shook. "Not days. Weeks. Maybe a month." Amir's mind raced through inventory and math. Flower stores, diesel left, medicine shelf life, how many households, how quickly fear would turn into conflict. He looked out into the rain-soaked darkness of Carway and realized the elders had been holding the village together with belief. But belief would starve. He turned back to Zane. Who else knows? Zane hesitated. Only us. If we tell Rashid, he'll control it. If we tell everyone, it'll become panic. Amir stared at his shed, faintly visible behind the trees, and then at the clinic window where the fridge light glowed. He understood then. The storm wasn't the disaster. Isolation was. And the village was one truth away from breaking. Amir didn't sleep. The storm made sure of that, hammering the roof like a countdown. But it was his mind that kept him awake. A bridge gone. The road buried. The truck not coming. The generator coughing out its last strength. He sat inside the shed behind his mother's house, listening to the turbine's steady spin outside. It sounded calm. Reliable, like a person who didn't panic just because everyone else did. He laid out what he had and what the village would need. Power for the clinic was non-negotiable. Power for communication, radio, not phones, was the next lifeline. After that came food, water, and order. If order collapsed, everything else would become meaningless. At dawn, he walked to Zane's house and took him and two others he trusted. Haris, a carpenter with quiet hands, and Nyla, Sima's younger cousin, sharp-eyed and unafraid to speak. They weren't the loudest people in Carway. They were the ones who worked when everyone else argued. Amir didn't give them comfort. He gave them a plan. We don't announce the bridge yet, Amir said. Not like a rumor. We announce it with a system already running. If people hear the truth with no path forward, they'll turn on each other. Zane nodded slowly. And Rashid. Amir exhaled. Rashid is not the enemy. Panic is. Pride is. But Rashid will fight to keep control, and that can destroy us. They moved like thieves, not because their goal was wrong, but because the village wasn't ready to accept it openly. Haris helped Amir reinforce the shed and build a second small enclosure for storage, sealed against moisture, elevated from flood runoff. Nyla and Sima inventoried the clinic and the homes. Flour sacks, lentils, rice, salt, tea, cooking oil, medicine, candles. Sima wrote everything down on paper, not a phone. Paper didn't die with a signal. Amir and Zane climbed the terraces and checked the water channels. The rain was a gift and a threat. Too much water could destroy terraces. But if they directed runoff into sealed containers and filtration barrels, they could build a buffer. They set up catchment where they could, and where they couldn't, they marked the safest spring sources and the homes closest to them. By the end of that day, Amir had built something more important than a windmill. He had built a structure of decisions. And then he took the truth to the elders. Not in the communal room. Not in front of a crowd. He asked Rashid to meet him at the edge of the lower footpath, where the boulder had already fallen. The rain had eased for a few hours, just enough for the mountain to show its scars. Rashid arrived with Musa and one more elder, their faces set. Amir didn't soften it. The first bridge is gone, Amir said. The road is buried. No truck. No rescue soon. We are cut off for weeks, possibly a month. For a moment, Rashid's eyes didn't move. It was as if his mind refused to accept a sentence that threatened his entire identity. Musa's mouth opened, then closed. Rashid finally spoke. Who told you this? I saw it, Zane said, stepping forward. His voice trembled, but he held it. We went down. Rashid's jaw tightened. You disobeyed. Yes, Zane admitted, because obedience doesn't clear rocks off a road. That line should have provoked anger. Instead, it landed in a place deeper, fear. Rashid turned to Amir. If you spread this, people will panic. If we hide it, people will starve quietly, Amir replied. Panic is not caused by truth. It's caused by truth arriving without a plan. Rashid's eyes narrowed. And you have a plan. I have a system, Amir said. A turbine for power, storage for food, radio for outside updates, rationing so we don't collapse on day 10. But I can't do it alone. And I won't do it in secret anymore. Musa scoffed. Rationing. You want to control what people eat. Amir stared at him. No. I want to stop the strongest from taking everything first. Rashid's face flickered, just once, like a candle threatened by wind, because he knew it was true. In every village, when fear rises, the loudest men become greedy. Rashid looked at the sky, then at the terraces, then back at Amir. His voice lowered. What do you want from us? Amir didn't hesitate. Permission, public support, and one thing that matters more than power, your voice telling people this is the village's plan, not mine. Rashid's pride resisted visibly, like a door refusing to open. Then Rashid said something Amir didn't expect. If I agree, Rashid said slowly, you will not humiliate the elders. Amir answered honestly. I'm not trying to humiliate you, but I won't lie to protect pride either. Rashid's expression tightened, then softened, almost imperceptibly. You speak like your father, Rashid murmured. Stubborn, quiet. Amir swallowed. He would have wanted the village to live. Rashid closed his eyes for a brief moment, and when he opened them, the decision had changed him. Tonight, Rashid said, we call everyone. That evening the communal room was packed. Men, women, older children, faces tense under lantern light. The generator didn't run. The village's usual glow was absent. Felt like a trial. Rashid stood at the front. His voice was steady, but it carried weight in a new way, less like command, more like a man admitting the mountain had humbled him. The bridge is gone, Rashid said. The road is buried. We are cut off. A gasp moved through the room. Someone cried out. A child started to wail. Rashid raised his hand. Listen. Silence struggled to form, but it formed. We have food, Rashid continued. Not endless. We have water. Not perfect. And we have power for the clinic because Amir built a wind system. All eyes turned toward Amir. Amir didn't speak. He let the village hear Rashid say his name without contempt. Rashid went on. We will ration. Every household will contribute a list of supplies by morning. Saima will protect the clinic supplies. Zain and Haris will lead work teams to reinforce terraces and clear safe paths. Amir will coordinate power and radio updates. Musa shifted, visibly uncomfortable, but he didn't interrupt. Rashid's authority had decided this, and Musa had no clean way to fight it without looking selfish. Someone in the crowd shouted, Why should we listen to him? He hid it. Amir finally spoke, voice calm. I hid it because you would have torn it down, and then the clinic fridge would already be dead. You can punish me later if you want. Right now, we need to survive. The room vibrated with murmurs, anger, shame, relief, mixed. Amir held up the radio. He turned it on. Static, then a faint update. Mountain road closures, delayed assistance, warnings to conserve supplies. It sounded official. It sounded undeniable. In that moment, the village stopped being a group of homes and became something else. A unit. The first week was the hardest. Not because of hunger yet, but because of habits. People hated limits. They hated being told no. Families tried to hide extra flour. A few men tried to bargain for special treatment, reminding Rashid of old favors. Rashid did something that surprised everyone. He refused. He walked into the communal room the second week and said it plainly. No household eats more than another. If I allow it, we fight. If we fight, we die. It was the first time many people saw Rashid choose survival over pride. The third week, the generator ran out of diesel completely. That would have broken Carway in earlier years. Instead, the lights didn't vanish. They simply changed. Amir installed one small LED strip in each home. Dim, efficient, enough for children to read and mothers to cook without burning fingers. He set charging hours in rotations. No arguing, no chaos. Names on paper, turn by turn. He expanded cold storage with a second insulated box and strict rules. Clinic medicine first, then a shared community reserve for perishable food that would otherwise rot. Amir watched something else change too. The same men who mocked him started showing up quietly. asking questions not with arrogance but with curiosity. How does it store power? One asked. Why does it still turn even when wind is messy? Another asked. Amir answered them all without humiliating them. He gave them ownership, because the goal wasn't to prove he was right. The goal was to make sure the village could do this without him. Near the end of the 4th week, the rains finally eased. The mountain breathed out. Paths began to dry, and birds returned like cautious witnesses. On day 27, Zayn ran up the terrace steps, breathless. Sound, he shouted. Amir followed him to the ridge where the road should have been visible. From far down the valley came a deep, mechanical growl. Not thunder, not another landslide. An engine. Men and women climbed onto roofs, standing in wet sandals, staring as if they were seeing a ghost. A bulldozer emerged around the bend, headlights cutting through mist. Behind it, 2 trucks crawled like tired animals. The village didn't cheer immediately. First there was silence, heavy, stunned, like the moment after you survived something you weren't sure you would. Then someone cried. Someone laughed. Someone dropped to their knees. Amir stood still. His hands didn't shake, but his chest felt tight, as if he'd been holding his breath for 30 days without noticing. When the vehicles finally reached the village edge, a government official stepped out, soaked and irritated, already preparing excuses. Rashid walked forward to meet him, not as a beggar, as a leader. We were cut off for 30 days, Rashid said. We managed. The official blinked. Managed how? Rashid turned his head slightly, gesturing toward Amir's direction without drama. Preparation, Rashid said. And a windmill you would have called strange. After the trucks unloaded flour and medicine, after children slept that night with full bellies and light in their rooms, Rashid came to Amir's mother's home. Amir met him outside. The air was cold and clean, the storm finally gone. Rashid didn't speak for a long time. Then he said quietly, I was wrong. In Karway, those words were rarer than gold. Amir looked at the mountain, then back at Rashid. You weren't wrong to fear change, he said. You were wrong to think pride could replace planning. Rashid nodded once. The village will build more, he said. Not hidden, not secret, open. Amir's throat tightened. He didn't show it. Then it won't be my windmill anymore, Amir said. It'll be ours. Rashid hesitated, then extended his hand. Amir shook it. The turbine spun softly behind the trees, indifferent to status, faithful to physics. And as the village lights held steady against the night, Amir understood the real lesson of the mountain. Disaster doesn't reward the loudest voice. It rewards the quiet mind that prepared before anyone else believed it was necessary. Strong closing line. In the end, the storm didn't change Karway. It revealed who had been building the future all along.